Good afternoon, everybody. So, Chris Bartlett, everybody. Chris, you've worked on a number of different Disney Star Wars projects, and in fact, you're pretty much everything.
Well, I've played 20 characters now in Star Wars. Yeah, 18 of them are droids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, because of your slight build, you will fit in a droid far better than I would.
Oh.
I'm up for Jabba the Hutt in the next one. So how did it all come about?
Wow, how did it all come about? Well, a long time ago, I was cosplaying about 20 years ago. I built a Stormtrooper kit, Boba Fett, and other costumes, but I would come to conventions, and this was like my acting school. So I would, I was trying to play the character, I would learn the character, and then I would try and play it as real as possible. So I'd be walking around asking people for, their identification. And I know he can do it better than me, but anyway, and then it took me 3 years to build a C-3PO costume.
So you built your own?
Yeah. And then Lucasfilm called me. I got this surprise email saying we'd like you to come out for a meeting in San Francisco at Lucasfilm headquarters, and so they bolt you together and screw your ears on and flip on the lights, turn on the microphone, and I said, "My goodness, why hello, I am C3," and they're like, "Yeah, okay, all right, we get it." And then we started this really great relationship where I've played C3PO in every television appearance in the last 18 years of him in live action, until Ahsoka, when Mr. Anthony Daniels made a special appearance as C3PO on television.
I don't think we'll begrudge you that. We won't begrudge you that. I'm sure exactly.
No, of course. No, it was great for fans. It was a really fun surprise to see him and hear him as well.
But you did Obi-Wan.
I did. I was in a suit for Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes, yeah. And that was a very subtle inclusion, wasn't it?
It was.
Very much in the background, it's sort of like, is that 3PO?
Yeah, well, we got this really nice, I have a picture of it up on my table, really nice featured moment where 3PO is, interpreting for aliens and other life forms. And it was just a really kind of a short moment, but it was really special because, when I do a show like that, inevitably the director will say, "Okay, Chris, why don't you suit up? You don't have to put on the head. Just come out and you can meet the cast and everything." And I always tell the dresser, just do the whole thing. And so when I come out, they're meeting 3PO, and he's lost, obviously. Is this a droid maintenance facility? R2-D2, it is you. Oh, I've been lost. And so we have this really fun, special moment where we're meeting this iconic character, and that's really just, I just feel so lucky to be part of, sharing him, and that's what we're doing.
So the other characters, like say predominantly, a big phrase, the ideal protocol droids and anything similar. I personally, I suffer with claustrophobia, so putting a mask on me would be a nightmare. How do you cope with that? Is that something you have to mentally prepare yourself for, or you just leave it?
The helmets are all different. I mean, a regular protocol droid like C-3PO, they're all the same. You're looking through drinking straws, and the rest is all blank. And but then others are better, others are worse. But it's something I really love doing. So with anything that you love doing, you don't mind some of the sharp edges because you really love what you're doing. So I get used to it. C-3PO takes snapshots. I suppose, yes. Wow. Like he's taking snapshots of his environment and his photoreceptors, that's how they work, and it just works. But then I also do all the rehearsal with the helmet off, and because what you want is, I learned this from Carl Weathers working on season 3 of The Mandalorian, that we do all of our rehearsals without the face on, so that we can have this emotional connection between the two. Not only the actors, but the actors and the characters. So that when you go say action, you see you know, like an example, Carl Weathers explaining to Copper in season 3 of Mandalorian, you know, that's not an Imperial destroyer, that's a Mandalorian privateer ship. See, you can see by the markings. Like that scene, you can really see like, oh, he really cares about the droid understanding this, and that's because Carl made such a point that we have this emotional connection, do it without the helmet, and then when we say action, then it's already...
Yeah, I mean, that was a really sad loss to Carl, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, yes. I worked with him every day on season 3, and we became really close. Carl is this legend, Apollo Creed and so many other characters in our minds, but in his mind, he's just playing along with us in this scene. And so one of the really special surprises of getting to know Carl Weathers is to find out that he's just a human who's creative and likes to, you know, do this stuff, you know, create characters and stories together. And that's why it was such a shock and such a sad loss to lose him so unexpectedly.
Yeah. So take it back to when you first became interested in Star Wars. I take it you were probably a very small child.
Well, I was 7 years old in 1977.
Same
and so, look at that. So we were the perfect age. There's this generation that, you know, there was no promise of more Star Wars. We just went and saw Star Wars. And then we would go home and we'd get the action figures and play in the shag carpet in our living room, you know, or making up stories with these, you know, maybe fringe characters. Everybody had Darth Vader and Princess Leia, but what about the Power Droid? What's his story, you know? And then you build, of course, your spaceship out of a refrigerator cardboard box and cut all the windows and buttons in it and everything. And it just really ignited my imagination as a 7-year-old. And so then we built our own costumes. My parents, you know, built my first costume as Luke Skywalker with a tinfoil belt and everything. I just felt like I knew that I looked exactly like Luke Skywalker. So in the costume, that's how you feel. And then they built me this robot, this big silver cardboard robot, but inside it felt like Megatron, you know? And so I have this great photo of me in a silver cardboard robot, and then me as C-3PO or Death Star droid. It was one of the scenes. Anyway, so I have really creative, really encouraging parents that even from a small child, they were really
So you had a strong connection to Star Wars for all these years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So of the other droids other than 3PO that you played in various shows, is there a particular favourite?
Yeah, Q90 on Mandalorian. He was season 1, and he would say, they in the script it said he has a Cockney accent. And so I learned all the lines, and so when we're on set, I rigged the costume with a microphone and a voice amp so you can hear me, and you know, I do all the lines. As we're, you know, because you want to be able to give to your fellow scene partners, and so I would say, despite recent modifications, your ship is still quite a mess. The navigation is intermittent, the fuel lines are leaking, and the hyperdrive is only operating at 67.3% efficiency. We have much better ships than this. You know, and so the idea is, what was great with Zero is I got a great shootout in Star Wars, which was, I'd been preparing my whole life for this, you know, as a kid. And then I got to fly Mando's ship, again, preparing for that my whole life. And then I got to work with Grogu for the first time, who was as real in person as he is on TV.
Yeah, so you were one of like the animatronic versions.
Yes, yeah. If he's sitting here on the couch with me, I would say, "Hey, Grogu, you need something to eat?" And he would like look up at me like this, and his eyes would blink. That's because the puppeteers are like over there somewhere, and we're just sitting around all day waiting, you know, waiting for it's our turn to do the scene. And so playing around, everybody's playing around in like a work way, you know, we're not goofing off.
So did you get to interact with any of the actors you thought, I can't believe I'm actually in a scene with this actor? Other than Carl.
Carl was the biggest one, But there was a moment backstage with Werner Herzog, who is a venerated director, writer, actor. He played the client. Yeah, he was like an ex-imperial warlord. He was the one who says, "I would like to see the baby," you know. And so this is brand new, okay? None of these have aired. It's like my third day of filming on set, and I'm standing next to him while we're watching a scene being filmed, and I'm just like, my whole life of fandom is flashing before my eyes. I'm trying to keep my cool. I mean, but I'm bubbling up with excitement, and so I'm standing next to him, and I just lean over really quietly and go, "Isn't this exciting?" You know, and he goes, "This is serious work. We are breathing life into characters which would not otherwise exist." And I go, "Yeah, that's what I meant. I meant that's what you said. That's what I was here." Anyway.
What about Ewan?
Yeah. Oh, and working with Ewan McGregor too. I played one Jack where I was hunting him all episode. This droid that looks like a long class droid from Empire Strikes Back. And all morning, I have to get shot. So all morning I'm slamming against the wall and hitting the ground with no pad. I had to hit the hard ground like this over and over and over and over. And so one of the last times, I'm laying there, I'm exhausted, a little bit in pain, and they take the helmet off, and I see Ewan McGregor standing over me, and he goes, "Chris, are you all right?" And I go, "Yes, Obi-Wan, but you do not have the high ground this time." He said, "Oh, I would never say that."
I never hope that they film that bit.
Yeah, but no, he was such a pleasure to work with. And worked with Gina Carano also, season 1. I play the bartender droid, looks like a Death Star droid. And I had the pleasure of, she was using me as a shield when the whole cantina was being shot up. So we have that connection.
And how fragile are those costumes? I mean, you're saying that you were knocked down over and over again. Did they smash at all? Or
No.
They're pretty good.
I build all the costumes that I wear on the show. I built it for the show, except for Zero and the aliens. I didn't make those, but all the rest of the droids I build, and yeah, they have to hold up, and I do all my own stunts. So,
so did you just happen to have them already built, or did you were commissioned to actually build them?
Bit of both. Tell you. Yeah. It's a collaboration. We'll say that. So, yeah. Yeah.
So, outside of Star Wars, is there anything else that you've worked on?
I worked on the Orville, which I played a robot. Big surprise. I also played in a show called Shining Vale, which is on Amazon. It was with Courtney Cox, Greg Kinnear, and Mira Sorbino, and I played the creepy goat. I was the villain of season 2.
The creepy goat.
The creepy goat. Yeah. I said, "Could you tell me a little more about this character?" And he goes, "Yeah, you're Satan." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I go from Disney to the devil. But anyway, we had this very. They said there was no screen test or audition for this. They said, "We want you for this. It's a sensitive scene that you'll be doing amongst the rest of your scenes. There's this one scene that's very sensitive. You'll be forcibly impregnating Courtney Cox." And I was like, "Oh, I need to make a phone call." So I called Marty Matulis, who's upstairs right now. He plays lots of creepy characters in like American Horror Story and stuff like that. I was like, how do you approach something like this? He goes, "Chris, there are good guys in stories and there are bad guys. And the job of the bad guy is to shine the light on the hero." And it was just a great explanation. And so you just, that's just how you approach it. And so there's a whole other story about how that even played out. But it was, I played the creepy goat. And it's throughout season 2. It was a lot of standing and staring and looking at people as they walk by. But it's really like the head looks like it's a rotting actual goat corpse head. Yeah, but the rest of the body looks like Frank the Rabbit from Donnie Darko. It's like dirty cookie monster, they called it. Anyway.
Oh, check that out.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I loved it.
So, what do you prefer, playing a good guy or a bad guy?
I mean, I just like characters. You know, like, if it's not a guy that looks like me or sounds like me or acts like me, then I'm interested. You know, because I'm used to this. I want to do something different. You know.
And if you could be any character that's already existed in the Star Wars galaxy, who would you like to play?
Ooh, the Gonk droid. I love the Gonk droid. He's the most simple design. He's basically a walking battery. He has great dialogue, and he's just, when you see him walking by, we're in Star Wars. You know, like it's a great. But no, growing up, I always loved Boba Fett. You know, now we have a lot of Boba Fett, but back then it was just seconds. And he said almost nothing, you know, and so Boba Fett as a kid was who I wanted to be. Yeah.
So working on all these different projects, I take it you've got to work in the volume.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, the volume is a round room with a ceiling, and all the surfaces are digital. They're TVs basically. They're all digital screens. And one example was when I played Zero, I got to fly Mando's ship, and that was a practical cockpit, and they parked that in this room, and all around me in 360 degrees is space, you know, dark starfield, and it feels like you're really in space because, you know, all the stars are just gently moving, like you're drifting a little bit in space, until I say, jump into hyperspace now. All the stars stretch to infinity like they do in the movie. And so that was cool. But when I was, I've been in a nighttime cityscape. I've been out on a frozen pier with this vast horizon, you know. And let's see, what else? They also use the volume to supplement practical sets. So you might have, like this hallway over here, you might have a practical set like that, and then there might be, if say it's a really long hallway, you might see that on the screen. But when you look at it in the monitor, it looks real. So I had no problem imagining where I was, whether it was as one Jack in a nighttime, like Blade Runner looking, you know, city, like skyscrapers go, you know, I mean, it looks so real. So it was so much fun to pretend in those because you never had to make anything up in your mind.
It's amazing how that's come on because that would previously be the post-production thing, whereas now it's pre-production, isn't it? So you've got all these sets and scenery that you can work within.
There's a really great example of this in season 1 of Mandalorian when Zero is introduced. I'm walking down the ramp. That whole hangar had engine parts and all this other, you know, set pieces around. But then in the background, there's like, you can see the whole hangar. There's guys welding on ships, and you know, and away in the distance, it's just incredible and fun. And so, as an actor, you get to just focus on your character, and instead of trying not to run into the tennis ball in front of a green, you know, it's just it's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Well, it certainly sounds like you're enjoying your time in Star Wars Galaxy, and I hope that we'll see you again in future projects, which obviously we can't talk about.
Me too.
But it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you guys.